Hello, hello. Welcome to 1-2 Punch. This is episode 5. I am your host, Zorine. To those joining us for the very first time, welcome. This is 1-2 Punch. It's a weekly radio show / podcast that is all about fighting games. If you like fighting games and are part of the fighting game community, aka the FGC, then this will hopefully be your jam. And if you don't like fighting games, pardon me, then maybe we can convert you. So this is 1-2 Punch. I'm your host, Zorine. I hope you enjoy your stay. To all the listeners who tuned into past episodes or have listened to this before, thank you for coming back again. Welcome back, and I'm very glad to have you with us. So, this show is, as you returning listeners would already know, is about highlighting fighting game events happening in the FGC, the latest fighting game related announcements, and professional player movement. We do have a hashtag. If you are on Twitter, feel free to join the conversation. It's hashtag 1-2 Punch. A bunch of you have already sent through some feedback and comments on that, so thank you so much. I am reading every single one of them. It's hashtag the numbers 1 and 2 and punch, the word. That's like 12 punch, I guess. You can also tweet me directly if you so wish. I am at Zorine on Twitter. That's at ZORINE. Or you can tweet at us at Esports Network. That is at Esports, one word with an E, no dashes or hyphens or underscores or anything. And then network, no spaces there. So Esports Network. And this is 1-2 Punch. I hope you will enjoy your stay today. This is episode 5. We have so much to talk about. Oh my gosh. So much is happening right now. I am so excited to get into today's topics. So let's go over quickly. I'll list what we have on the menu today, what we're serving. We're going to start off with a bit of an appetizer, as we call them in Australia. So Evo 2018 USA games were revealed last night, in fact, if you're listening to this live. If you're not, then probably earlier this week, and you might have seen all the drama that happened, but can't wait to dig into that. There's a lot there to talk about. Capcom confirmed 2 events to be part of the Capcom Pro Tour 2018. SNK, pardon me, announced support of Fuerte Beatdowns. They also released a new trailer for the upcoming game SNK Heroines. SNK has just got a lot happening this week. They also have a press event happening that's kind of related to them this Friday. That'll be live streamed, so I'll talk a little bit more about what to expect there. Street Fighter 4 Champion Edition was announced today by Capcom. That's coming to Android for mobile devices. Interesting that they say Android. I don't know if Apple is coming later or maybe it's already out. I don't know. I don't play mobile games. But if you want to play Street Fighter on the fly, as it were, on mobile devices, I guess this could be a really good option. More player movement. NuckleDu dropped hints at a possible new team that he could be signing with. That's right, the pro Street Fighter player NuckleDu is no longer with Team Liquid. I think we talked about this either last episode or the episode before. I don't remember now. Time is just crazy flying these days. And Infiltration also had a bit of movement. So lots of news to dig into. And with that, let's launch into our very first piece of news. Evo USA games revealed. Oh my gosh. I honestly, going into this review. So here's the funny story. James, Chen, and I were actually driving last night. We were on the road on our way somewhere when the stream was happening. So actually, we put it up on his phone, and then we're like, oh, we need that for the map. For Google Maps. So then I put it up on my phone. We watched the live stream of the reveal and our reactions. It was really interesting and fun because, driving through LA traffic and listening to this live stream, and I was watching it and relaying to him the chat reactions, and it was just an interesting way to experience the reveal, because prior to that I had always watched it at a computer right by myself and just been like, oh, look at the chat reaction, oh, look at the internet reaction, but talking about it, I guess, in person was kind of fun. Anyway, so for those who don't know, the Evolution Championship Series is one of the biggest fighting game tournaments in the world. It's traditionally hosted in the US of A. The past few years, it took place in Las Vegas, very fun venue in the Mandalay Bay. I did compete last year, so that was good. And Evo did just conclude its first ever competitive event in Japan. So Evo Japan did just finish. And now we have Evo 2018 in America to look forward to. So that's exciting. Coming back to Las Vegas on August 3rd to 5th. And if you haven't booked your tickets or made arrangements, now might be a time to start thinking about that. But on to the actual games themselves, because that's probably the most important part about this event, right? So last night, Evo organizers Mr. Wiz and Markman revealed the games that would be featured. They live streamed it on Red Bull Esports' Twitch channel. It was, yeah, I don't know if I could say it met expectations, but so there were eight games revealed for the main stage. There are main 8 games. So for those who are unfamiliar with Evo, also hosts a lot of side tournaments, but these are the main games that get like the most attention. Like they're officially hosted by Evo, backed by Evo. You know, they get their finals played on like big screens, or for the main games on the big stage on finals day, which is Sunday. And they get like, you know, all the attention and highlights and backing and everything. So these are the 8 games. I'm going to read them out now. First game, I'm going to read them out first, and then I'll like break down each one and comment on it, okay? So the first game, Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. Tekken 7. Injustice 2. Dragon Ball FighterZ. Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2. BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. Super Smash Bros. Melee. And Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. So there's 8 games this year. And the games that will be featured in the arena finals on the Sunday. So Evo happens over 3 days. There's Friday, Saturday. So the pools happen in the venue Friday and Saturday, and then on Sunday all the finals get moved to like the big arena setting. It's like a full arena style viewing. Like it's massive. There's a big stage in the middle. Everyone sits around it, and the seats kind of go like from like floor to up higher seats. So it's like arena style viewing. It's really hype. And a lot of people make a big deal about what games get chosen to be shown in the arena on the Sunday finals, because, you know, like that's where they get all the attention, and like the arena setting is like really hype. So there's plenty of videos around if you want to see what it actually looks like. I know I have one on my like personal YouTube channel, like part of my vlog from last year. So it's really hype. Check it out if you can. I really can't do it justice just by talking about it or explaining what it looks like, trust me. So we have that list that I just read out. Those are the 8 games chosen. If you compare that to the list of games that was there last year, there's a few differences. But these are the games, of those games that I read out, these are the games that have been chosen to be shown on the arena on Sunday. So Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, Tekken 7, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2, and Super Smash Bros. Melee. That's right. That's all of them. 5 games on the finals day. It's interesting that Melee's come back, because last year Melee missed out actually and didn't get shown on the finals stage. And I know that caused a bit of controversy. A lot of people weren't happy about that. The Smash community wasn't happy about that. You know, Melee is still a very strong game. Shows no signs of slowing down. Dragon Ball FighterZ, that's an interesting one, but man, that game is gonna look so sick on the big screen, I have to say. Like, that is gonna cause some reactions. Let me just put it that way. So let's look at this list, compare it to last year's. It's mostly the same. You know, Street Fighter V, Tekken 7, Injustice 2, Smash Melee, Smash Wii U, Guilty Gear XD Rev 2. Those games all made it back. And I'm going to go over each game that returned and why I think each one was brought back. I mean, like some of them obvious, yes, I know, but I think it's important to also talk about the less obvious ones. Firstly, Street Fighter 5. I mean, that game coming back to Evo was no contest. Street Fighter, sorry, in general, the series, it's the poster child of Evo, of fighting games in general. It had the most entries at Evo last year. There's no Evo without Street Fighter 5. So I don't think I need to say anything more about why Street Fighter 5 was brought back. Tekken 7. Tekken was actually the first confirmed game that they revealed on the stream last night, if I remember correctly. Um, Again, like not so surprising, Bandai Namco has shown a lot of support for the competitive scene. There's still very strong interest in the game. It was the fourth highest game in terms of entrants alone last year at Evo. So even though last year was the first year for Tekken 7 at Evo since it was released. But I think the game Tekken 7 has barely begun its esports trajectory and it was just a given to see it come back for Evo in the US of A this year. And there's a really strong Tekken community here in the US. I think they need to be served at Evo, so that's kind of a given. Of the anime fighters, Guilty Gear XRD or XRD or whatever third Rev 2 is making a its return is not really a surprise either, I have to say. I mean, the updated Rev 2 was only released in May 2017 last year. So Evo 2017 was like the first big trial for that game at a major tournament. Then, of course, the game was super popular at Evo Japan. Arc System Works shows it a lot of updates. Gets a lot of love. I think Guilty Gear is, the numbers tell us that it's the most popular anime fighter right now. I mean, if you don't really class Dragon Ball Fighters because it's still kind of finding its way. It's new, it's fresh. I think just Guilty Gear in general. And all the hype from Evo Japan, like Guilty Gear was so huge at Evo Japan. And I think all the hype from that will carry over to Evo USA, hopefully. And hopefully we see a lot of international players come by for Guilty Gear here at Evo USA. But one thing I do want to point out that top 8 for Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2 was not played at the final stage at Mandalay Bay last year, I believe. So I don't know what made them change their mind this year. It feels like there's one more game than there was last year. I can't remember now. I was there in the crowd, in the stands for Evo last year. It was amazing hype. Anyway, moving on. Super Smash Brothers for Wii U. I mean, it's a Smash game. It's also this newer Smash game, which means Nintendo is probably pushing that one more. They don't have much to make from pushing Melee, from like a financial standpoint. So it's interesting to see their kind of, I want to say encouragement, maybe a stronger word like forced, um, you know, direction for Wii U, Super Smash Brothers Wii U over Melee, but yeah, interesting that it came back, and in some ways, I think it's almost kind of, I feel sorry for the other games that didn't make the cut because Super Smash Brothers is taking like 2 slots really out of the 8 games that are confirmed. But that being said, Wii U, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U is not going to be making it to the finals day stage on the Sunday. So instead, it will be replaced by Melee. So they swapped places. Speaking of Melee, Melee coming back, no surprise. It's a strong game. The scene is so very much active and alive. Still hype. Very hype, actually, as shown by recently Plup winning Genesis. That was like a huge, huge upset, but good for him. I think, having that shake-up is also what the scene needed. So really cool that happened. And yeah, it's Melee. I mean, like, there's no way you can't have Evo, like, no Melee there. That'd be crazy. Injustice 2. I want to say like it was not surprising, but surprising at the same time that it came back over some other games. I mean, the game gets a lot of updates. NetherRealm Studios and Warner Brothers have not shown any intention of stopping their support of that game anytime soon, which is really nice to see. A lot of new characters, they're always releasing new trailers for them, teasing new things. It's really cool. And, that in turn works to feed continued interest in the game. Even though Injustice 2 only got 880 entrants in comparison to the other games that were available at Evo last year, it still has a place. And I actually think the game is still new enough to remain relevant in, not just the FGC, but, in Evo's space as well. So let's talk about what was dropped that was on last year's list, but didn't quite make the cut this year. First up, BlazBlue Central Fiction. Kind of not surprising, but I mean, this game was released in 2016, which it isn't that old, that being said, but that being said, also you have to consider that Cross Tag Battle, the new BlazBlue game, is coming out very soon. It comes out in May, which means it kind of like if it was going to be between BlazBlue Central Fiction and Cross Tag Battle, I think Cross Tag Battle takes the cake for that. So that also BlazBlue Central Fiction had dwindling numbers. It was like the second lowest game in terms of entrants at Evo 2017. So kind of waning interest, I want to say. Either way, there is still BlazBlue representation at Evo, though. Like, you've got Cross Tag Battle, which is more than what could be said for our next two games. Next up, King of Fighters 14. Oh, it hurts to say this so much because I actually have a soft spot for the King of Fighters games, me and that game go way back. I remember playing that as a young child in the arcades. But anyway, King of Fighters 14. Wow. Is this like the end of King of Fighters forever? Like, no King of Fighters at Evo? I never thought I'd see the day. I mean, we have seen the day, but I never thought I'd see it again. So, it was the lowest entered game at Evo last year with 374 entrants. That being said, at Evo Japan, King of Fighters 14 did have a lot of people, over 500. Poor KOF fans, I really feel for them. That game is rough. Anyway, we'll be right back to talk more about Evo stuff after this break. Hey, welcome back to 1-2 Punch. I'm your host, Zorine. This is a rad song. Really takes me back. We were just waxing lyrical. Well, not waxing lyrical. That actually insinuates something positive. Let me say, pouring one out, I guess, would be the better metaphor for King of Fighters 14. That's right. King of Fighters 14 not going to be at Evo USA this year. It was at Evo Japan, where it had over 500 entrants for the game, but it's not making a return for Evo USA. And honestly, like, I don't know if the King of Fighters scene as it is right now is strong enough to go up against the likes of games like Dragon Ball Fighters and the what will be newly released BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. And it's really hard because there is a finite number of slots. They only had 8 slots to work with, I suppose. They had 9 last year, but we'll get to that in a second. They only had 8 slots, and there's only so many games. Like, there are so many popular fighting games now that it's hard to give love to all of them and give them enough space and run their tournaments properly at Evo. At an event like Evo, which is a 3-day event, and they only have so many people who are there working on it. So it's not easy to run a tournament. I can't imagine all the backlash that the organizers have to put up with. My heart goes out to them, but sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and one of them was obviously to cut King of Fighters 14 out from that list. So next, this game was kind of made its final hurrah at Evo last year. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It had over 650 entrants, so it actually had more entrants than King of Fighters and BlazBlue Central Fiction at Evo last year. But if you don't recall, UMVC 3 was voted in as the 9th game to be at Evo from fans. And its absence is not surprising because last year was it's supposed to be its final hurrah, but no Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. That is very, very strange. Very surprising. I thought they might do it. I thought they might exclude MVCI. The new Marvel game that came out last year was featured a PlayStation experience, but I didn't think that they would actually do it. And they did. They did actually like exclude it. Um, so, the successor to Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which was at one point one of the most hyped games to watch at Evo, is not even there. There's not even going to be Marvel at Evo this year. It's crazy. Now, there's a couple of things that we have to consider here. Um, Markman did post a series of tweets today about, I think it was in response to the reactions from a lot of people who are upset about their game not being included. And I think the most prominent of these are people who play Marvel. Um, he kind of he didn't directly say, but he hinted at that it might have been to do with difficulties in dealing with publishers. So don't forget that when a game gets featured at Evo, the tournament organizers have to have meetings and talk with publishers about there's like licensing things to talk about, like you're streaming someone else's game on your stream, you're essentially making some sort of media from it, you make possibly money from it, like there's a lot of things to consider. So it wouldn't surprise me if there were difficulties in trying to procure Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite for Evo 2018 in the US on the publisher side. So if Capcom were the ones who said no, or if Marvel, who are notoriously protective of their IP, made it difficult for people to work with them and, restrict a lot of the things that they would have wanted to do. I'm just speculating, by the way, here. Like, this is not all confirmed by any means, but and I do wonder if this is Capcom trying to quietly kill off Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, because that game completely, like, it bombed when it came out. It reviewed poorly, it sold poorly. I'm sure it did not meet expectations at all. And it's just in general been a lot less popular than what was expected for it. And I guess it might be controversial to say this, but I will. Yeah, I just feel like if they do decide to bring back the ninth community vote slot, if Marvel is in there and it somehow gets voted for, like, I don't know if it'll even make it through, but yeah, it's just hard because you look at MVCI and the way it was received upon release, and you compare it to games like Dragon Ball Fighters, which is just killing it right now, right? Like, Dragon Ball Fighters set new records for fighting games on PC. The community is really strong. It's even like, a lot of people are happy because it's brought in a lot of new players. And I think that injection of new energy, new blood is just what the scene always needs, always like wants. And I think that's great. So, but my heart does go out to the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite players out there who have tried, trained so hard to play this game and who have put in a lot of effort to constantly play it and to try and like bring up the scene, and then, or even like the players who got signed or sponsored pro Marvel players whose game won't even be at Evo. Like, that's just crazy to me. Yeah, like, I can't believe that actually happened, but who knows? Who knows why it happened, right? It could have been a combination of all those things that we've mentioned before. But that being said, and I think I talked about this a little bit a couple of episodes ago, but when a game, doesn't get featured like this because of organizers, I think it comes down to the community. Like, there will, I would say, like 90% chance, there will be a 90% chance that there will be like a side tournament for Marvel at Evo, like some community people will host it or whatever. And there are other tournaments that are happening for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite as well. Like, it's not like the game's dead forever. It comes down to the community, right? Show your love for the game. And this goes for all the games that were excluded, right? Like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and King of Fighters, and I guess the old BlazBlue. Like, if your game didn't make it, like, show initiative and do something for it on the community side, because a passionate community is what makes the FGC. Like, it's what props games up and makes them. It's not about the choices that are made by publishers or the people on top. It's about the community who, like, bands together and are passionate about getting the game the attention and love that it deserves. So there you have it. I've said my bit. Let's quickly touch upon the newcomers who were introduced in the list this year. Dragon Ball Fighters. What can I say? Arc System Works, you have done it again. You have killed it. I am super curious if this game is going to be the most popular game at Evo this year. I will be so shocked if it is, but it's just funny to think about it. Like, imagine that. Imagine if there were more entrants for Dragon Ball Fighters than any other game at Evo. It's like the gateway. It would, if that happened, this game would be like the gateway to other fighting games in the FGC because, it's Dragon Ball. It's an anime that's super popular, both in the West and in Asia. A lot of people love Dragon Ball. The game itself visually looks like it, like very amazing. The systems are great. It harkens back to the classic anime slash manga look. It's great. And I think Dragon Ball Fighters, that's right, is leading the charge for fighting games on PC at the moment because it's like smashing records. Like I think it was like the article I saw was like 40,000 peak concurrent users for Dragon Ball Fighters, which is the most for any PC fighting game. Second place was like Tekken at 7,000, so that's saying something. But then let's not forget that the power of the Bandai Namco brand backing Dragon Ball Fighters, like the publisher, they're probably going to do something great with it. And the game is going to be so good to spectate. I can't wait to see it in the arena. Bring, well, I was going to say bring water. I don't know why. It's like hype makes you thirsty, I guess. I don't know. But yes, Dragon Ball Fighters, as confirmed by Bandai Namco themselves. Fighters, pronounced that way, not Fighters Z, not Fighters Z. Fighters. See, I've already adapted. BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, the other newcomer that is coming to Evo 2018 USA. This game's out May 31st in Japan, I think a couple of days later for the rest of the world. There is a lot of hype for this game because if you haven't been following, I think a lot of the hype for this game has stemmed from its roster of guest characters. So it's got characters from other popular franchises like Persona, like Ruby. You know Ruby or RWBY, that Machinima slash Monty anime, I guess you could call it. Animation, maybe a better way. I don't know. Anyway, it's got characters from both these universes as well as characters from some other ones that kind of slipped my mind. I think animes or something as well. But, it's a very popular franchise. And I think, it's BlazBlue, firstly. But also I think the power of these guest characters, like Persona is such a popular game. Especially, amongst the FGC. I think the audiences overlap there a lot. So really cool to see that there. And I'm really interested to see if, how the entries will go and the community will react to this game because it's, like I said, it's got all the fan, service. And is it part of the... No, it's not part of the Finals Day Arena viewing. So it won't be played on the big screen in the arena on Finals Day, but it'll still be, a main game at Evo. So, so that rounds up the list. A lot of interesting news there. Man, you should have seen Twitter last night. It was as if the Evo announcement had hammered the final nail in the coffin for some of these games. That is not Evo is not the be all and end all of tournaments. It's not even the end of it's not the be all and end all of Street Fighter tournaments, I want to say. Just throwing it out there. Capcom's own Capcom Cup, they've made that their own thing, right? Evo is a part of the Capcom Pro Tour, which we'll talk about in just a second. But yeah, it's just no, your game is not dead. Games don't live and die by a single event. It's a slow thing that happens slowly over time when a community's support wanes for a game. So keep playing, whatever game it is you love, organize whatever tournaments you want for it. It's still alive, don't worry. Next piece of news. Capcom has confirmed 2 events to be part of the Capcom Pro Tour 2018. Yes, and they've also announced details of when they will reveal the full details for Capcom Pro Tour 2018. Yes, it's literally An announcement of an announcement, because that's where we are at now with the industry. But they will be revealing all the info on CPT 2018 on February 19th, so just over a week from now, which is very exciting. But in case you fell down and hit your head, resulting in a momentary blank on what the Capcom Pro Tour actually is, here is a reminder. Capcom Pro Tour is basically a Street Fighter tournament circuit held by Capcom themselves, so it's officially backed and everything, and they choose fighting games events that happen all over the world throughout the year, which are hosted by like their own communities and their own organizers, and they choose these events to become part of the Capcom Pro Tour. So when an event is chosen to be part of the CPT, Capcom Pro Tour, the event gets points that are allocated to the players who place certain like placing. So like first place will get X number of points to go towards the Capcom Pro Tour. Second place gets, a little bit less, but they also get some points, etc., etc. So for example, Evo US is hosted by the Evo crew, but in the past, last year, Capcom deemed Evo to be part of the CPT, and the players who won Evo earned like a whole bunch of points to go towards their placement in the CPT. There are different regions and there are different ways of earning points. So for those who cannot travel, you also have the option of participating in online tournaments. And at the end of the year, it all culminates with the top 32 players, who have the most points. They're brought to a final tournament, which is the Capcom Cup. Big deal. And then there they duke it out in a double elimination bracket. And last year in 2017, Capcom also held a last chance qualifier tournament the day before Capcom Cup to select the final entrant. So yeah, that's basically what CPT is. It's a tournament season / league that runs throughout the year, and like players have many chances to go compete at different tournaments. It's an interesting system. I could talk a little bit more about why I think it's got, where its strengths and weaknesses are, but basically, if you're a player who's able to travel a lot, I think you have an advantage because you can go to more tournaments to rack up more points, assuming you place very well at them. I don't know if you get points for placing last, like even like participation, but even if you do, it would be so small that it's almost inconsequential. So it's interesting. Yeah, I think it definitely benefits players who are able to travel more, but how do you otherwise offer like a system that helps everyone? I don't know. There's a lot to think about there. But anyway, so CPT announced 2 events that have been added to the circuit Capcom announced 2 events that have been added to the circuit for CPT 2018. The first of these is Final Round, which is hosted in Atlanta, runs March 16th to 18th, and it takes place at the Georgia International Convention Center. The second confirmed tournament is the NorCal Regionals, NCR, which takes place March 30th to April 1st. Wait, I'm pretty sure it's March 30th to April 1st. As the name suggests, it takes place in Northern California, Sacramento to be specific. So these 2 tournaments we already know are going to be part of the CPT. Now, we have more news coming right up, but first, we're going to go to a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. This is 1-2 Punch. I am your host, Zorine. Don't forget, if you do have any feedback for us, I am listening to all the things you say on Twitter. If you're watching this on YouTube as well, I read all the comments. So thank you for everyone who dropped a comment in the previous episode. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up, both commenting on YouTube or on Twitter. Hashtag 12punch, that's the numbers 12punch. Or you can tweet me directly at Zorine, that's at Zorine. Thank you to all the people who tweeted previously with feedback and other tidbits as well. Really interested to hear all your thoughts. So thank you. Don't forget, if you like what you're listening to or watching, you can also subscribe to us. We are on iTunes, Google Play, any podcast, I suppose, app that serves those platforms. And I do believe we are coming to Spotify as well. So look out for that. Yeah, watch out, world. We're coming to Spotify. Fighting game podcast on Spotify. Who would have thought that this would be that would ever happen? Anyway, I digress. Let's move on to the next bit of news for you all. SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy. That's the, if you forgot, we talked about it I think on episode 3. SNK announced this game a couple of months, maybe a month ago. Has it been a month already? It's crazy. Time flies. It's a 2-on-2 tag team game featuring the female characters from various SNK game series. So we've had a couple of characters confirmed already, like Kula from KOF is in there, Mai Shiranui is in there, Athena is in there, and they recently showed some more like gameplay footage and trailers. So new character NuckleDu was revealed. She, if you don't know who she is, she's perhaps best known as being from the Samurai Showdown series. And they also showed a bit more gameplay and a bit more of the customization system in the game. So you can like customize your characters and dress them up in different costumes. It's very like, it reminds me of like, I don't know, Barbie dolls or something. It's very cutesy, very flashy. It does look like fun though. Like I feel like I would just play for fun. And I think I said this before, but I love the customization aspect of fighting games like Tekken. Man, Tekken 7's customization system, so much fun, right? Like there's a lot to be had there. I think it also adds like an extra layer of depth or stuff to do if you don't feel like, grinding through online ladders. You can just like, mess around, customizing your character, making them look cool. I think it's like a nice alternative way to get players to play the game without actually having to play the game. So, anyway, I've digressed. So they've showed the new gameplay footage and a new character. That trailer is online if you want to check it out. And the game, if you don't know, is going to be released in summer this year. We don't have a specific date. I was actually curious, wondering if this game would get any Evo coverage. So but we don't have a date of release for it yet, so it's kind of like, it'd be weird if they did confirm it to be Evo. Also, I feel like it's a very strange game to have at Evo, given what it looks like. But yeah, so summer 2018. It'd be funny if they announced it for Evo, because then it'd be like, oh, we know it's coming after Evo, like, sorry, before Evo then. Kind of revealed it accidentally. So the publisher for SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy is NIS America. So they're the ones who will be publishing it in America. And NIS announced either yesterday or the day before, they announced that they will be having a press event, which will be live streamed this Friday. And the press event will be covering a bunch of NIS games, but also that includes SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy. So if you're excited about that game, you're looking forward to it, they might reveal something new for it at the live stream, which is happening this Friday. So look out for that if that's something that you're interested in. I'm just here to give you the heads up. More SNK news. SNK announced support of Fuerte beatdowns. So I did mention that I said this before, but like, just because your game didn't make it to Evo means it's like dead scene, dead game or anything. So I think this is really cool. SNK is obviously supporting the KOF scene in this way. This is for KOF 14, by the way, if I didn't make that obvious. So there's no KOF for Evo, but there is this, right? Like, that's pretty cool. So SNK actually has this new esports program, which is really interesting. It's called the SNK Esports Support Program. And according to their website, the goal of this program is to support SNK game tournaments and their organizers by, advertising support and giving like prize giveaways, stuff like that. And any person or organizer who is hosting a tournament with SNK games in it can apply for this support through their website. So they have a website, and you can, if you're an organizer, you can go apply there. And, SNK will support your tournament if they deem it to be appropriate, I guess, or if it has enough people. I think it's like minimum 20 entrants have to show or something like that, and blah blah blah. But they're gonna support it by giving money. There's like money prizes that they'll give to game, like, for your prize pool. They'll provide physical prizes as well, like original goods from SNK, swag, merchandise, that sort of stuff that people love. They'll advertise sponsored tournaments via their media, like social media, sorry. So, I think that's actually like probably the best thing of all, honestly. Like having that extra social media support, getting extra exposure is so important for scenes. Then they'll also like provide things like assets, like company logo and visual assets for like if you want to put it on like tournament like posters or something, just for the purpose of advertising your tournament and stuff. So really cool that SNK is doing something like this. I'm actually surprised because a lot of I think traditional Japanese developers I find tend to be very tight-lipped, I want to say, and restrictive of how the third-party tournament organizers go about using their game. Capcom. So it's nice and refreshing that SNK go and do something like this. I think it's really cool to see. Props to you, SNK, and props to you especially for showing support to the King of Fighters scene. King of Fighters 14 is not an Evo, but doesn't mean that you can't keep supporting it. So the tournament in question is Forte Beatdowns. It's happening February 17th, 8 p.m. EST at Brooklyn Video Games in New York. You could probably Google it, Brooklyn Video Games, New York. They will provide converters for Xbox / PS3 sticks and pads. So I think Sabin is the one who is behind that one as well. So props to you, man. Really, really cool to see KOF is down but not dead, right? Maybe we'll see other developers follow suit. I guess we might slowly get there. I do wonder if they're going to do anything for like on the competitive side for SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy actually, like, or will that game just kind of be like their fun? I say that in quotation marks. Fun game where like it's not like a serious competitive game. It's more like lighthearted in tone. It's like a fun fighter. It's coming to Switch and PlayStation 4. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, so yeah, those things to look forward to. Next up on our news piece, pro Street Fighter player NuckleDu dropped a bit of a hint at what could possibly be his next pro team. So, as I mentioned before, beginning of the year, contracts up for renewal or contracts have completely finished. So, NuckleDu parted ways with Team Liquid recently. They last week shared a video thanking him for his time with that team. He was like their only fighting game, or at least Street Fighter player on Team Liquid. He was with them for 3 years. That's kind of crazy. And he had like all his big wins with them as well. So, he thanked Team Liquid for his time there, and it was a very amicable parting. Like they thanked him for everything, and the video was very nice and all that jazz. But he did say that he is looking for new opportunities. So might be moving to a different team, but. There is some speculation, and I'm speculating here because Du posted a photo to Twitter and a message thanking Optic Gaming for hosting him at dinner recently. So, if you don't know who Optic Gaming is, I'll quickly give you the rundown. Optic Gaming is actually one of the biggest and I want to say strongest esports organizations in North America. They are founded by Hex, who is an ex-pro Call of Duty player. Their official colors, I think, are green and black. I know the green is definitely one of their, part of their color scheme because they have a saying, green wall. It's what their fans are, I think. Like, it's just like support the green wall or green wall, you know, like I think it insinuates that they're so strong that coming up against them is like coming up against a wall, basically. But yeah, really strong organization. They have like big teams, both. They have teams across League of Legends. That's a recent one. So that's a big deal. They also have teams in Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and I think they have an Overwatch team as well. I'm not really sure because of the rebranding. It kind of confused me a bit. But basically, really big established esports organization in North America. And they currently have no FGC players signed. So if NuckleDu does sign to Optic Gaming, then that'll make him their first FGC player. But really interesting to see, you know, him talks with Optic, because they're such a big established org, and they have made a lot of big moves lately. Let me just put it that way. Buying a spot in the League of Legends Championship Series. You know, they've got their Call of Duty team, their CSGO team still going. Like, they've just been moving a lot. So, you know, if he signs with them, good for him. And I hope whoever he does decide to go with, that'll be interesting. It's interesting to see more big esports organizations make moves into the FGC. Let me just put it that way. In related news, Infiltration, the South Korean Street Fighter powerhouse, announced that he has parted ways with Team Graphite. I've seen the name and I know who they are, but I've always just said it as Graphite. I don't know if I'm wrong. If I am, please tweet me or leave a comment or something to let me know if I'm right or wrong, because I do want to know. But it's spelled GRPHT. Anyway, he joined Graphite in November last year, so he hasn't been with them for very long. I want to say 4 or 5 months. And they do have other FGC fighters who are signed to them, like Hudo, Haitani, MOV, Takumi, and Guilty, Pecos. And Graphite is also partnered with Cyclops Osaka, who has the players like Goichi, Dogura, Tanokana, Kuromame. So, you know, it was an amicable parting. He thanked the team in his post, and it was, I feel like it's kind of weird. He did just win Evo Japan Street Fighter 5. You know, that's a big deal. Like, why would you leave a team right after winning? But I don't know. Is he going to a better team? Who knows? Maybe he demanded more money because he's worth more after winning. Who knows? But anyway, this is 1-2 Punch. I hope you all enjoyed your stay today, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. I'm your host, Zorine. Don't forget to drop us a comment or subscribe to us on various, outlets if you want to keep listening. Thanks, everyone. Bye.